Amelia is still making massive waves in the UK. And every time I make these videos, people just keep saying, please keep making these videos. I think it's a perfect mix of entertainment with the Amelia memes and exposing the fraud and scandals in the UK, specifically with Keir Starmer and his what seems to be a dictatorship these days. Huff for Congress. It's time to discuss the wisdom of democracy. If democracy is going to end anyway, either in socialism when leftists cheat enough, or Sharia when imported Muslims outbreed the natives. Why must it continue?
One day soon, Western democracies will have to decide what's more important, the West or democracy.
Man, Huff is killing it with this stuff. Shout out to that Star Wars girl who posted this. It's going pretty viral. She posted her in the cosplay of Amelia, and it is perfection. Perfection. Bloody hell. Absolute cinema over on the right here by Huff. That's amazing. We got Amelia. No one is illegal on stolen land. Lamal, babe. Cute little slogan from your gated LA mansion.
No one is illegal on stolen land sounds real deep from your mansion surrounded by bodyguards, while normal girls like me are getting raped and stabbed on British streets. Sit down, privileged pop princess.
Billie Eilish gets tagged here as well. She's really going through it. I covered the other day when she talked about how she wanted people to take back stolen land, and no one lives on stolen land. No one owns property. And now people are showing up at her house being like, hey, let us in. What the heck? Amelia, the game is over, Starmer. Mandelson's Epstein web has you cornered. Lies, deceit, and now your own MPs saying your days are numbered. Time to face the music. Resign. There you go. Benonine. Amelia is willing to fight for king and country. Are you? Bloody love you, Amelia. Basile the Great. When Labour MPs are appearing as angry as this on television, they don't care anymore. Keir Starmer is finished.
One man, one word. Change. Yeah. That's what we promised. That was the whole of what we as the Labour Party promised this country. Change. This looks more like the same.
Should he step down?
I think that he needs to think very hard about what is in the country's best interest and what is in his party's best interest.
It's a veiled yes.
Don't beat around the bush. What you're saying is, yes, he should step down.
You're saying you don't want to say it, but
he needs to think very hard about what is in the country's best interest and what is in his party's best interest.
It's a veiled yes.
That's weird.
You're saying you don't want to say it, but you're saying it with your eyes.
Oh my God. So he can't say it, but he's like, my silence speaks for me right now. Wow. Massive elephant in the room. Holy.
Keir Starmer as a project came about from somebody who had been the protege of Mandelson and who is now the chief of staff in 10 Downing Street. There's connectivity, and to use your historical analogy, the guy at the top is not the only thing here. There are barons, and when the barons begin to feel that they're under pressure, it's a very dangerous time for the Prime Minister. And there is so much that is dependent upon what Mandelson, through the Chief of Staff, then has initiated, and the people who are now in positions as ministers that have been dependent upon that whole process.
Okay.
That means this is not just one man at the top. But you're talking about an aristocracy within the party.
So you see right there that there's already conversations of brewing. You know what's happening behind the scenes, and they don't want him there anymore. Basile the Great. Rachel Maskell becomes first Labour MP to publicly call for Keir Starmer to resign. More will follow. Have no doubt. It's already, the dominoes are starting to fall. Basile the Great confirmed Attorney General fast-tracked Lucy Conley's case, She was right all along. She was a political prisoner. The state went after her directly. Keir Starmer and Lord Hermer are fascists, imprisoning their political enemies. Disgraceful. Speaking of, House Judiciary GOP posted, British police arrested a non-UK citizen arriving from the US for his online speech. Graham Linehan is an Irish comedy writer who tweeted jokes critical of transgender ideology while in the United States. When he flew to London, Linehan was arrested at Heathrow Airport by 5 armed officers. This is his testimony. And again, I follow him on X. He follows me. He likes some of my posts. This guy is base as fuck and very, very funny. But apparently the UK did not think he's all that comical.
My name is Graham Linehan. I spent 30 years writing comedy for British television. It was a career I loved, but it ended when I began noticing that women were losing their livelihoods, their social circles, and even their freedom for defending rights won over 100 years ago by the suffragette movement. I looked into what these women were saying and could find nothing wrong with any of it. They believed, as I do, that single-sex spaces are essential for women's privacy, dignity, and safety. They believe that children should not undergo experimental medical treatment that ravages their health and shortens their lives. They believe that women have a right to fair sport. These were not extreme positions, but for holding them, I became the target of a series of harassment campaigns that cost me my career, my marriage, and eventually drove me from my homeland.
Wow.
For a decade, the British police have harassed me for expressing views that the majority of the public share.
Wait, I'm sorry. Hold on. Not to interrupt him here, but I thought Keir Starmer said that they do have freedom of speech in the UK. This doesn't sound like they do.
In 10 years, not one person, not the police who arrested me, not the colleagues who condemned me, not the friends who turned away, has told any of us what we did wrong. Our accusers do not deal in arguments. No one is able to point to the flaws in our analysis. We have simply been punished for objecting to fashionable yet incoherent orthodoxies. When I could no longer make a living writing comedy, I returned to journalism, which was my first profession. On my Substack, I interviewed cancelled women on my YouTube channel covering stories the BBC refused to touch. On my Substack, my colleague published a weekly roundup of outrages. We called it the War on Women. We were never at a loss for stories. This committee is here to discuss threats to free speech in Europe, but I briefly want to touch on the forms of quiet censorship that don't require state suppression. For the state has learned to let others do its work. When employers fire workers for protected speech, when banks close accounts, when publishers drop authors, when platforms suspend users, the government's hands stay clean. The censorship happens. The state didn't do it. In Britain, we have discovered that you can have formal free speech and no free speech at all. I want everyone to understand that gender ideology and free speech cannot coexist.
Wow, mic drop. 100%.
You can hear the lie in the very language. Trans woman meaning man, trans man meaning woman, trans healthcare meaning the opposite of healthcare, trans rights meaning men's demands. An ideology that tells lesbians they are bigoted for not accepting male partners is not progressive, it is homophobic.
You can tell he's so nervous, which rightfully so, because he, at the end of the day, he's just like a citizen. And he's being put in position of like the firing squad of political movements right now. He's like, bro, I'm just trying to live my life and make some jokes. Like, what is going on right now? Is this Soviet Russia, communist China, North Korea? What are you doing, UK? Is this what you want to become?
And I will bring this home to Washington for a second. Right now, a man named Hobby Bingham, who calls himself Princess Zoe Andromeda Love, is a registered sex offender in this country. He raped a 12-year-old girl. He was transferred to the Washington Correction Center for Women, where he raped a developmentally disabled female inmate.
Oh my God.
This is not happening in Britain. This is happening here. These are the policies we are being asked to accept. And just as in the United Kingdom, those who refuse pay with their livelihoods, their reputations, their peace of mind.
Wow.
Finally, I'm asking the committee to do 3 things. First, use every diplomatic lever you have to pressure the British government to implement its own Supreme Court ruling. Women just won a landmark case confirming that sex means biological sex. The guidance to enforce it has been written, and the Minister for Women and Equalities has blocked it for months, calling it trans-exclusive. If the British government can ignore its own Supreme Court to appease gender activists, so can yours. Please make it clear that America is watching. Second, put pressure on the Irish government to reopen a conversation it never had. In 2015, while Irish people were celebrating their vote for marriage equality, the Gender Recognition Act was quietly passed.
Wow.
No public consultation, no referendum, no women's rights organizations consulted.
That's just pure fucking evil. People sneaking that shit through.
Public did not know what they were signing up for. They do now. The consequences are visible across Irish life. Men in women's prisons, men in women's sport, children taught lies in their schools.
How did we get here? Like, logic is completely thrown out the window. Who are the people that are championing this? And how are they in any kind of position of political power?
Ireland is my country of birth. Its women and girls deserve the debate that they were denied. Third, recognize that free speech is not preserved simply by declining to arrest people. People from all walks of life are being silenced by the institutions that license and employ them. We need new whistleblower protections for the digital age. If government will not defend dissenters from institutional retaliation and mob rule, then what is the First Amendment for? That's not an abstract question. The women who lost their careers, the children who lost their health, the athletes who lost fair competition. They did not have a voice in the decisions that failed them. I am asking you to give them one.
What a banger job by Graham. Holy crap. Huff for Congress. I'm not willing to lose all of Western culture just because a majority of foreigners and communists voted for it. Not to Sharia, not to socialism. The leaders of Western democracies need to decide, probably yesterday, do you want the West or do you want democracy? Fin. Bastille the Great. In the UK, little girls were sacrificed in the name of an ideology. Politicians, police, social workers, all did not want to stop the raping of children because they would rather protect the system of mass immigration. It's scary what has become of the UK.
It also has to get so bad that people realize how bad it is and they need radical change.
But I think the grooming gangs did that.
Yeah.
I think the fact that we effectively sacrificed thousands of kids on the altar of ideology, the fact that we said...
Which, by the way, anyone with a normal functioning brain has been saying this for like a decade. Like, nobody looked at this with a logical mindset and was like, yeah, sure. I guess we'll let kids just cut off their genitals and take a bunch of pills because they woke up one day thinking they're a different sex. No, I firmly believe Jeffrey Epstein was the epicenter of the trans movement. And with the leaked emails proving that and his investments in it and conversations with doctors that were doing it, I think it's not even a stretch to say he is the epicenter of where it came from.
You know, there were politicians, councillors, doctors, social workers saying, we don't want to be called racist, so we're going to ignore the sexual assault of children on a mass scale.
And that was not really thoroughly covered here in America in mainstream news.
I think because Elon...
No, online it was, but not in mainstream news.
So do people not generally know about that?
They know about it now.
Right, okay.
But it wasn't something that you would see every night on CNN.
Really?
It's a huge story.
I mean, to be fair, I wasn't really paying too close attention to the trans movement until it started finding its way into gaming to the point where it became unavoidable and unignorable. And that's when I was like, I'm gonna say something right now because I disagree with the direction games are going. And doing that opened my eyes to a world that was happening outside of gaming. That was like, holy shit, how the hell did we get here? What the hell?
The power of being called racist became so intense. I mean, even, you know, that horrible bombing at the Manchester Arena at the Ariana Grande concert, in the subsequent report of what went wrong, one of the security guards said he saw the perpetrator with the rucksack and he didn't approach him or apprehend him because he was afraid of being called racist.
Yikes.
That was the reason. And as a result of that, 24 children lost their lives.
Oh my God.
The power of...
But at least he's not racist. he can hang his hat on not being racist.
Of smearing someone as racist is so potent, which is why I think here in America, the word fascist, the word Nazi gets thrown around so much, because they know if someone is so branded, you disoblige yourself from having to engage with their ideas. They become this kind of monster that you don't have to even think about or worry about.
Right.
And I think we're just getting over that in the UK now, where the accusation of racism no longer really sticks.
Yep.
I think people think it doesn't mean anything anymore.
Yep.
And they've tried with Reform. They've tried saying that Reform is a racist party.
It's weird too, even from my own personal perspective. I used to be devastated if anyone in my life even considered me racist. I was like, oh my God, no, I promise you I'm not. Oh my God, what do I need to do to prove it to you? I have black friends. I have this, I have that. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, fuck these people. I don't need to prove shit to anybody. These words don't mean anything. What means anything is how you treat people in real life, who you actually are to these people. The words that they throw at you are meaningless.
It's a far-right party. No one's buying it anymore. And I think that's why hopefully something can change. I think the grooming gangs, I think the mass immigration, to the extent where people are now at risk, they just are. Unvetted people.
I think the next word is I already see it. People are already starting to throw around the PDF on everyone right now too. That's the latest trend.
Many with criminal records.
That is insane. Inevitable West. If you still refuse to resign after your 20th scandal, then you're a dictator. Keir Starmer is a dictator. And Bugle Daily. Amelia says Keir Starmer is a wanker. Change your mind. I'd like to think the Amelia movement is really starting to affect how not just the UK leadership thinks, but more importantly, the people in the UK are like clinging onto this as a more than just an idea, but as a movement to return their country back to them. And it's magnificent. And every time I make these videos, people are like, just keep making these because it's perfect. I get to blend the entertaining memes of Amelia with what's actually happening on the ground. It's like, this is insane shit. And it's getting the word out there. And that's the best way to start having change actually happen. And I'm here for it. But I'll leave that there.